edition of Ruckus is made possible through the generous support of Dave and Jamie Cummings, the Hartwig family, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to Ruckus, our weekly food for thought fight over the news of the day and the trends of the times. I'm Mike Shannon. The Ruckettes join me shortly. Our topics this week: Tuesday's election brings concrete results. Governor Greitens prefers facing off on Facebook, and clarifying McCaskill's position, plus roast and toast. But we start with our interview segment and focus on projects involving education. Take Note and Show Me KC Schools. Take Note, KCPT's new education initiative, operates on the premise that tomorrow's leaders are in today's classrooms and ask this question: are we doing everything in Kansas City we can to prepare them to lead? Joining us now to talk more about the program is Tricia Johnson, a member of the Take Note Advisory Council. Tricia is also founder of Show Me KC Schools, a program designed to help parents find the right school for their children. Tricia, welcome to Ruckus. Thanks for joining us. Given your background, it's not really surprising that you're involved in a couple of these projects. Talk about what you've done before coming to Kansas City.
Yeah, so I have some background in education, so I had the opportunity to teach in Chicago for a couple years and also overseas as well, and to support some international education projects as well. And so I moved to Kansas City about 8 years ago when I was pregnant with my first child. And since moving here, realized just how nuanced the educational landscape is in the Kansas City public school boundaries. And so that really set me on my journey to found Show Me KC Schools.
Okay, what does Show Me KC Schools do?
Yeah, so we are a nonprofit that helps families find the right school for their children. So we do that in 3 key ways. So we have an online school guide with information about every single school in the Kansas City public school boundaries. So all of our district schools, all of our charter schools, all of our private schools, and our parochial schools. And we have information about enrollment deadlines, tuition, mission statements, test scores, points of pride, attendance data. And then we organize a major school fair. It's called the City School Fair, and we'll have another one in November in partnership with the Office of the Mayor and the Kansas City Public Library. And then we do a series of school tours as well. And we do those for parents. We get them on a bus and help them to see 4 or 5 schools, and we do those for community members as well.
And there's no charge for the parents to use this service?
Absolutely, right.
And when we say KC Schools, we're talking about the Kansas City, Missouri school district, not all the school districts in Kansas City, Missouri,
yes,
or greater Kansas City. Were you surprised about how many school districts there are in Kansas City, Missouri?
I was. So it's interesting. So my husband works in education, and yet being married to an administrator, an education administrator, I could not for the life of me understand all of the school options. So many conversations about what is a charter school? Tell me again, what is a signature school? Is that the same thing as a magnet school? And so it took me several years to figure it out personally, and thought, if I'm having this much trouble understanding our education landscape, then I can only imagine the troubles that other parents are having.
And people get in contact with your organization by going online?
They do, yes. So they go online. Oftentimes we get phone calls as well. We're available at, again, our city school fairs, and we provide a lot of support on our tours.
Sometimes you hear people say a child's educational future is determined by his or her zip code, but you're saying that's not necessarily true in Kansas City, Missouri.
You're right, exactly. So we feel that, a lot of families with means have had school options their whole lives, right? So they have had the option to determine what school they want to go to and move to that city. Or they've had the opportunity to identify a private school that they want to go to and send their children there. But for a lot of families, their zip code has determined where they go to school. But in Kansas City public school boundaries, that's not the case.
Okay, let's talk about the Take Note program, which is part of the education initiative at KCPT. A lot of information available at kcpt.org. You're on the advisory council. What can you tell parents about it?
Yeah, well, I'm really honored to be on their advisory council. And so it's an interesting project. It's a 3-year project that really takes the time to gather community perspectives and experiences, and then to tell a story. And so they're telling a story about education and the impact it has on all of us through videos and through town hall meetings and community conversations and social media. And so there's an opportunity for all community members to share ideas that they have about stories that they would like
Any idea about what we've learned so far from that initiative?
Yeah, so there's a wonderful video online right now about the history of education in Kansas City. There's also one that explores funding of education in Kansas City as well.
That must be an interesting history to read.
It is.
Given the federal lawsuits and all the controversies it
Absolutely.
caused.
Yes, I've watched it probably 5 times and still learning something new. Yes.
Well, sounds great. Thank you very much for coming in. Appreciate your time. Show Me KC Schools, and take note, your website is showmekcschools.org.
You're right.
All right, and the other is kcpt.org.
Correct.
And I'm right again. Thank you very much for coming in. Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you very much, Mike.
That is Tricia Johnson of Take Note and Show Me KC Schools. Now let's meet the panel and start a ruckus. Patrick Tuohy is the field manager at the Show Me Institute, a libertarian think tank. Lisa Johnston is a consultant and columnist. Jim Heater is a former city councilman and Chamber of Commerce executive. And Ron Freeman is a motivational author and speaker. It's good to have all of you with us. Welcome. There is now concrete evidence that Kansas City, Missouri voters want better streets, roads, and flood control mechanisms for themselves, and better facilities for stray animals. All 3 infrastructure questions in Tuesday's bond issue election required 57% for approval. Each got in excess of 60% voter support. Voters also okayed a small sales tax increase for 10 years, designed to enhance economic development on the city's east side. And it was pot luck for marijuana users. City voters approved the plan to reduce fines and eliminate jail time for possession of 35 grams or less. Let's start with the bond questions. Why, Jim, were voters so willing to tax themselves by passing these 3 issues? Tax themselves for 20 years.
Well, Mike, first I think it's important to compliment Mayor Sly James and the City Council and City Manager Troy Schulte for bringing that proposal to the voters of Kansas City, Missouri. That's the kind of leadership that responsible city government provides, and they did an exemplary job, I think, of putting these issues on the ballot for Kansas City voters to consider. I think what Kansas City voters did was they recognized that Kansas City's on a roll, and one of the important ways to keep it on a roll is to invest in these kind of infrastructure programs for the future. I wasn't so surprised that the issue passed, but I was surprised by the enormous majority by which it passed. I think that speaks well of Kansas City voters and the future for Kansas City, Missouri. This is an issue not just for today, but for the future of Kansas City, Missouri.
And the turnout was surprisingly large, was it not?
Given the climate on Tuesday, the weather on Tuesday, given the fact that it was a special election, a municipal election, yes, I think there was more turnout than some people projected.
Well, some people think it was because the marijuana issue was on the ballot.
I think there were a number of issues on the ballot that brought people out, and that's a good thing. That's always a good thing in a democracy.
Patrick, you were one of the most visible opponents,
Sure.
maybe the only visible opponent of the bond issue. Are you surprised by the result?
I am. I'm surprised by the turnout, and I was actually surprised by the result, but this is Kansas City speaking very clearly, shut up and take my money. The numbers were strong. The turnout was stronger than expected, so I don't think there's really any doubt. I don't buy all of Jim's happy talk. I think really this is the people saying we want government to do its basic functions. Remember, this is not icing on the cake. The city is offering to pave the streets, to fix the sidewalks. This is what cities...
Kind of the basic functions of a local government.
And things that they've deferred for 40 years. And then question 4, which sought to raise a sales tax for the east side, I think is a repudiation of the city, frankly, because it's activists who couldn't get money from the city to provide basic services going to the voters directly.
That money for the east side from the 1/8 of a cent sales tax for 10 years will be administered by a 5-member commission, 3 appointed by the mayor and council, 1 from Jackson County, 1 from Kansas City Schools. Does that sound like a workable arrangement to you?
Well, it remains to be seen. It's a 10-year tax. I want to say it'll raise around $100 million over time, but there hasn't been an awful lot of detail. We're kind of in uncharted waters here, and we hope for the best, but it remains to be seen.
Lisa, as Jim points out, this is a big win for Mayor Sly James. And he now has a lot of public support, it appears. What do you think he's going to tackle next? What big project, if any?
Well, that's a good question. I think possibly the airport may get revisited in terms of how they want to try to move forward on that, or if that's going to be practical or pragmatic. It's possible. I do want to revisit the comment that you made about the marijuana issue, because that was actually the issue that got the most support in the election. And I do think that that did help those 3 issues to pass, because I think there was something about the dynamic of the group that turned out that made them more amenable or favorable to the bond issues.
Ron, how soon do you think we should start to see results from these 3 infrastructure questions being approved by voters?
Tomorrow. I mean, we can't. No, I think that's the question: is the accountability on it. When are they going to make sure it happens? Is it going to happen? We don't know that. We know they have the resources to do it and tax the public, but the accountability was always a question. But before we get too far into this, hats off to Steve Glorioso, because he did a great job of getting this thing done and then putting it out there. I think you make a good point with the marijuana thing. I think there are a lot of people that turned out wouldn't normally vote for taxes, but it was all kind of part of a package, and it worked out well.
Jim, you're a good friend of Mayor Sly James, I think it's fair to say, and have been his friend for years, long before he became mayor. What do you think he wants to do next in the last 2 years of his term?
I think this was indeed a big win for Sly politically, and I also think it meant a lot for him personally and for his legacy as mayor of Kansas City, Missouri. I think he will turn his attention now to, in fact, the airport. I hope he does. I'm a strong proponent, as you know, of a new single terminal for KCI, and I think that the election result on Tuesday will provide positive momentum for that as the next big project led by Mayor James for Kansas City, Missouri.
He's finishing his 2nd term in a couple of years. Do you think he has political aspirations after being mayor?
You'd have to ask him about that.
Well, I mean, you're his good friend. What do you say? It wouldn't be the first time we've seen a mayor go on to higher office.
It wouldn't be the first time, particularly a mayor who's done a great job as a mayor as Sly James has for Kansas City, Missouri.
I think the number of times the mayor traveled to Washington, D.C. in the last 6 months of last year demonstrate that he's ambitious and wants to go elsewhere.
And good for him. All right. There are many reasons journalists criticize governors, as Sam Brownback well knows, and Eric Greitens is beginning to discover. The biggest criticism the new Missouri governor is facing seems to be his unwillingness to hold news conferences. Since taking office in January, he has conducted 1, maybe 2, relying instead on Facebook Live sessions. Journalists claim resorting to Facebook allows Greitens to pick and choose what questions he answers and avoid tougher ones like, how much money did your backers spend for the inauguration ceremony? And who's funding your travel on private planes? Greitens has chosen not to use the state's aircraft. While he may shun state reporters, Governor Greitens has made several appearances talking with network anchors on the Fox News and Fox Business channels. Supporters and GOP strategists say Greitens is smart to use this approach. And from a purely political point of view, Patrick, do you think those consultants are right?
Well, the short answer is I don't know. I think that the governor avoids...
So we finally found a question to which you don't know the answer.
But I'll talk.
Great. Groundbreaking.
I think the governor does this at his own peril by avoiding the press. I think engaging the press is important. I think it's good for him. It's good for his office. However, the press is not a constitutional government body. If the governor and future governors can find a way to talk directly to the people, then absolutely they should do that. We want transparency, but the media is not an absolute gatekeeper to our political leaders.
Greitens is kind of following the playbook of Donald Trump, is he not?
Well, and he's not alone in that. I think social media has allowed, the previous governor of Missouri and governors elsewhere to talk directly to the people, directly to their constituencies, and go around the traditional journalism. And I think traditional journalists obviously don't like that, but traditional journalists, a lot of conservative Republican politicians think that the journalists are just out to get them in the first place.
Ron, you've been around politics for a long time. You were the executive director of the GOP in Kansas. You ran for office. You've been on talk radio, talked to people throughout the country. What's your assessment of this approach that Greitens seems to be taking?
I mean, I think it's the way he wants to do it. It's fine. It's interesting that stuff you read about it, and they talk about Trump and Brownback being different. They're very amenable and working with the press. But you look at the same thing with Governor Brownback and Donald Trump. The press is merciless, and a lot of the negative, and that's Greitens' whole deal. Is that he doesn't want to get into this thing where they're being defined negative here or there. Because honestly, the policy, whether it's the inauguration or the traveling, are those some major issues to Missourians?
Yeah, we've got 3 people here who have run for office. Jim, city councilman, Ron ran for Congress, and Lisa, you ran for the U.S. Senate as the Democratic nominee in Kansas in 2010. Did you hold lots of news conferences and have lots of interviews at pleasant times with reporters?
Well, I did have lots of interviews, and it's interesting, this topic, because while I don't condone hiding out, and I think as either a candidate or as an elected official, you need to be willing to take questions and provide answers to the people. I do understand the frustration, because I could probably do a whole ruckus episode on my frustrations.
Are you available next week?
Right? Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. In terms of how I was covered, and I'll give one example. I was doing a television interview in which I was drawing the distinction between myself and my opponent, Jerry Moran, talking about the fact that my background was education and the value of having fresh perspectives and folks who were not career politicians. Then, when I watched the interview, the intro was, Lisa Johnston thinks it's time for more unprofessional politicians in the U.S. Senate.
Yeah.
I was furious because that was a complete misrepresentation of what I said, and then they showed clips, but of course not exactly
And
what
there's
I
really
had said
nothing
about
you can
that.
do after the fact.
Correct.
You
The
can
bell
complain,
has been
but,
rung,
you know.
and if you can't unring that bell, and you can complain, as you say, and they could do a retraction next week and say, oh yes, we meant to say non-career. But people have already gotten the impression, and it's frustrating when the media or the press engages in that way, and they're not even-handed and they're not objective, because we don't want that. Regardless of whether they're dealing with Republicans or Democrats, they need to be doing their job and being objective.
Jim, you've dealt with the political world quite a bit in your history. Do you think the typical Kansas City, Missouri voter cares or keeps track of how many news conferences Governor Greitens gives?
The answer to that is no, they do not. Having said that, though, this isn't really an issue between Governor Greitens and the press. This is about the people and about governing the state of Missouri. And I agree with the comments that my three colleagues have made in different ways that it's important. It's ironic to me that Governor Greitens ran on a campaign of openness, honesty, transparency, and since he's been in office, we have seen almost exactly the opposite on all of those issues. It's not just a failure to have press conferences and answer questions from the press. It's a matter of failure to disclose income taxes, to let us know who's paying for his private plane as he flies around the state into Washington, D.C.
Are you funding that for him?
Believe me, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
For a variety of reasons, but believe me, I'm not. But it really goes to those kinds of issues, and I think in the long run, you ask politically speaking, I think that he will find it's a mistake not to be open, honest, and transparent, and that includes with the media.
And he is so good
I don't think the public's
with the media, isn't he? I mean, I watched
He is
him
good.
during the campaign. He's a bright guy, got a PhD from Oxford. He was a Rhodes Fellow, I believe, and he's perfectly capable of responding to positive or negative questions. I don't understand why he would be unwilling.
Dealing with a difficult, hostile press builds character. And for a politician who wants to be in the game for a long time, that is an important aspect of character to have. It is unpleasant, but you learn how to get your message
It'll
through.
be interesting to see how he ends up.
I would
It will
just
be.
say from a number of years as the news director of a couple of radio stations in Kansas City, it's frustrating when a public official does not have news conferences regularly. It's equally frustrating when one has a news conference and has no news. Nothing to say.
But we're in a social media world. We're in a social media world
It's a
now.
different world now, yes.
People are going to respond to that. So
All
we'll
right.
see.
When Missouri Senator Claire McCaskill decided to vote no on the nomination of Supreme Court nominee Neil Gorsuch, you can bet she was thinking of much more than his jurisprudence. She was thinking about her re-election chances in 2018 and the prospect of alienating pro-choice groups if she backed Trump's choice. Apparently, she had given supporting Gorsuch some consideration, expressing concern about how polarized politics has become and the impact a filibuster would have in the Senate. Many analysts now call Missouri a Republican state. McCaskill, of course, is a Democrat who won re-election in 2012 principally because of the inept campaign of her opponent, Todd Akin. She'll likely face a stronger opponent next year. In light of all that, does McCaskill's decision to oppose Gorsuch make political sense for her? And we start with Lisa.
I think the handwriting is on the wall for Senator McCaskill, and she was just fortunate to win in 2012 because of Akin's mistake. But provided that the Republicans do not nominate someone who sticks their entire foot in their mouth in the way that he did, I think that her days are numbered, and I think that she knows that. She tied herself so closely to Hillary Clinton during the presidential campaign and was a very strong surrogate for her. And frankly, Hillary did not do well in Missouri. She only got 38%. And so I do think that when it comes time for that Senate campaign, she's going to be linked very tightly with Hillary, and that will not work in her favor for Senate reelection.
Jim, when she said she was thinking about not voting for a filibuster, allowing Gorsuch's nomination to go to an up or down vote, she said one of the reasons she might go along with opposing the filibuster because she was concerned about how polarized politics had become and the impact a filibuster for a high court nominee would have on the Senate. Do you agree with her thinking about that?
I absolutely agree with her. Maybe it's because Senator McCaskill and I are both lawyers, but I feel very strongly the same way, and I think that's a very honest and candid observation by her. I am dismayed to see how political, how extraordinarily political the choices for the United States Supreme Court have become. If, in fact, the so-called nuclear option is employed, which I'm pretty confident it will be, and all of a sudden we have a 51% majority approval for U.S. Supreme Court justice, I think it will take away a strong lever toward keeping justices who are a little more center, a little right center, a little left center, but a little more centrist. I think that's Senator McCaskill's concern, and I think it's a legitimate and important concern.
Well, you are an attorney, as you mentioned, a Harvard Law School graduate, as I recall. Do you have problems with Neil Gorsuch? He strikes me in my not lawyerly training to be someone very bright, very articulate, and very knowledgeable about the law.
I think all of those things are exactly true, and he's been rated highly qualified by the American Bar Association. I think he's certainly qualified to be a member of the United States Supreme Court. I think particularly in this environment, though, each senator has to decide whether for himself and herself, in this case Senator McCaskill, has to decide whether that justice, in this case Judge Gorsuch, has the kind of values and experience that they seek in a Supreme Court justice. He's a bit more ideological than, say, Mr. Justice Roberts. He also has a history in previously decided decisions of tending to take the side of big corporate versus individual, particularly individual workers. I think those are legitimate decisions on which
but
to
he
base the
says he was
Supreme Court.
following the law, and we talk about the driver and he getting frozen on the road. In that case, though, he said he was following the law, and when he cited the law, it's hard to disagree with him.
And well, but Senator
that's his
McCaskill,
job, isn't it, as a judge, to follow the law?
well, Senator, it is his job to follow the law, and you can debate whether that was in fact the law or whether he was helping create the law. But in fact, Senator McCaskill and others are saying that is just one of a series of decisions that shows his certain ideological bent, and they would prefer to have someone else on the Supreme Court.
Well, it's kind of interesting, Ron, that McCaskill's concerned about polarizing politics. She's been polarizing herself, has she not, over the years?
And I think that's the case. It's and that her when she was elected, it was more of a matter of an independent Democrat who followed her conscience. It seems now she's
a moderate.
Following the party line. But I think with Gorsuch, you have a guy who actually has ruled against big coal. He's ruled in favor of the Little Sisters of the Poor. I mean, he's not this corporate thing is really, it's not him. But the bottom line is, when you look at, there's a Democrat from Indiana, Donnelly, says he is a qualified jurist who will base his decisions on his understanding of the law and is well respected among his peers. What more could you ask for? You know?
Missouri is now considered a Republican state, I think. There was a time when it was a swing state or purple. What has changed quickly?
Gosh, I think it's I think the thing
Does
that
it
broke
reflect
the dam,
national trends?
It does, but in Missouri, I think what broke the dam in Missouri is term limits. Actually, a lot of maybe personally popular politicians who were Democrats or left of center suddenly had to leave, and when people were voting for clean slates. Conservative Democrats, perhaps in Missouri, voted for Republicans, and it's been that way ever since.
All right, we're going to head now to the soapbox for Roast and Toast, where the Ruckettes have 30 seconds each to offer applause or guffaws to people and events in the news, and we begin with Patrick.
My roast is for the Cassandras out there who wring their hands and complain about Donald Trump's administration and the worst 100 days we've ever seen. So I did some research, and let me read to you briefly a little bit of what happened in other presidents' first 100 days. Thomas Jefferson's vice president shot Alexander Hamilton. Martin Van Buren saw the Panic of 1837, a recession that lasted into the 1840s. William Henry Harrison died. Millard Fillmore signed the Fugitive Slave Act. James Buchanan lobbied the Supreme Court for and got the Dred Scott decision. Abraham Lincoln, of course, saw the South secede and the attack on Fort Sumter. John F. Kennedy launched the Bay of Pigs invasion, and Ronald Reagan was shot on day 61 of his presidency. So let's calm down, everybody. We're going to be okay.
All right, Jim.
Mike, in the interest of making sure that this episode of Ruckus covers all topics, including dogs and cats, I'd like to toast everyone who was involved in the recent campaign as part of the Kansas City, Missouri bond issue package to provide a new animal shelter in Kansas City, Missouri. We have one of the largest no-kill animal shelters in the country, but that shelter has been somewhere between an embarrassment and a disgrace for almost 40 years. I know well so many people who began working 5 years ago to make wonderful improvements there. In fact, our daughter 2 years ago adopted a puppy, and he's now a valued pet member of our family, but it's great to see the voters of Kansas City provide money for a new animal shelter.
All right, Lisa.
Just yesterday, Governor Brownback announced his endorsement for a 4.6% flat tax plan that's been discussed by Kansas Senate Republicans. My roast is for Brownback and his allies, who refer to this plan as fairer. This plan slaps families in the lowest tax bracket with a 70% increase and puts them worse off than under the pre-2013 tax brackets that Republicans at that time said were overwhelmingly high and ridiculous. This plan is unconscionable. For those who are interested, I've written a blog post detailing different kinds of tax plans and how they affect Kansas families, which you can access either by following me on Twitter at Lisa for Kansas or through my website, lisaforkansas.com.
And Ron.
I'm going to roast Senator McCaskill. Again, a person I respected and think she had done a nice job, but then she falls into the line of party politics, and it's not good for Missouri.
All right, and that is going to do it for Ruckus this week. We're back next Thursday at 7. Now for the Ruckettes and the crew, I'm Mike Shannon saying thanks very much for watching and good night.